All right, welcome back. Let's continue the conversation on the INEC voter register now. Joining me on the program all the way from Angola is Omoru Yaigbe, who is a political affairs analyst. Mr. Yaigbe, thank you very much for joining us on the program. By the way, he joins us from Angola. You've seen the voter register now released by INEC, and over 90 million registered voters. You look at the voter register now, you look at all the segmentation done there. Like, for instance, you can see that over 30% of the registered voters are between the ages of, is it 18 and 25 or so? So when you look at all of those indices now, what exactly does the register tell you?
Thank you very much. And you didn't tell me Happy New Year. Let me say it,
yes,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yeah.
So it's interesting, but it hasn't really informed anything about 12.2 million registered, that's new registrants, that's new voters between 2019 and 2023 election. 12.2 million will be deciding the future of the country, added to the 84 million of 2019. What this register has told us historically, the Northwest continue to lead, the Southwest continue to follow. This has been the plan. What has happened is that states like Kano continue to be densely populated. States like Lagos, if you look at Northwest, you're looking at Kano, Kaduna, very importantly. Of course, thank you. And you see Lagos, Kaduna, Kano, Kaduna, Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom State does have that number. So when you look at Lagos, you are even surprised. Why is it that Lagos has the highest number of registered voters? However, Southwest is not popularly dominated compared to Northwest because of Ekiti. Ekiti has the lowest, about a little above a million. Even Bayelsa State, which has 8 local government, even more than people who will be voting in Ekiti. In North Central, states like Jigawa, Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, those are very populated states, and it's been historic. It's not that they just got added now. It means that the pattern has flowed from the 2019 registered voters to the 2023 registered voters. The number has just added as it were. So no region overtook another. It's been there. So I think the register, but what the dynamics that I think is important is the 12.2 million, that where are they from? Who are they? Who are these young people? Because like you said, the young people, those have an increased number. And it's also almost clear now that 37%, that is remarkably high, which means the young people can clearly decide the future of this country. And if you then add the middle age, 35 to 49, which is 33%, I mean, which means if we can clearly say that 18 and 49 years, they are the owners of Nigeria in terms of determining the future of Nigeria, which means the next president of Nigeria, 2027 and going forward, can actually come from this bracket age, 18 and 49.
But most importantly, that would depend on whether this age bracket of people now come out on election day to vote. Because we've seen this in the past. On election day, you see that the majority of people you find at polling units are usually elderly people, the aged. The young ones, you hardly find them there. So do you think it might be different this time?
I believe it might be different because of what we saw with the voter registration. You know, we had this conversation during the voter registration period. Many people were calling for an extension. There was an hurricane of who wanted to register. At the point of closing the date of registration, there were still more people who really wanted to register. Maybe for a number of reasons, either they came to re-register. You know, we had that case. There were many folks who turned up who had registered before, and they were removed from the register of voters. Yes, this time you could see, when we had that conversation during the voter registration, we said there were a certain level of anger, there were a certain level of desperation, there were a certain level of knowledge, electoral information within that young people bracket. Again, young people. The point of registration, they were largely dominated by young people. In fact, one of these tools used to pull them out, because at that time you saw there were musical concerts, there were jamborees, there were events.
There won't be, but the point is there won't be musical concerts on election day. And another question I want to ask you is this. Even INEC itself has come out to say, look, the past two election cycles we've had, 2015, 2019, voter turnout was just around between 30% and 35%. Do you think we may be exceeding that figure this time?
That's so when the voter register INEC talked about in 2011, there were registration up to 2019, and that was 84 million. Arguably, around 28, 29, less than 29 million people showed up to vote, because the current president got about 15 million votes, while the runner-up at that time, Atiku Abubakar, had a little above 12 million. That's about 11 million plus, and all the other candidates put together about 1 million votes. So if you add up all of those votes, maybe rejected ballot or whatever ballot that were not counted as, from a record of 84 million, about 30 million showed up, which means about 54 million didn't show up on election day. Who are these 54 million people? Maybe on that register, there were people who had died, there are people who are relocated, who didn't move their registration point. In this current phase, between 2019 and 2023, there have been a lot of movement of voting points. Again, there's also creation of new voting polling units. In 2019, there were voting points. There were some kind of hassle in terms of the way you identify your polling unit, even though we saw that in recent off-cycle election, particularly in Ekiti and Osun election, where even in FCT election of last year, that there were certain polling units that had very low turnout because many voters didn't know that their polling unit had been moved or had been created. But that's the next level of information, and we're constantly encouraged to create a number of awareness around those polling units that have been created. Back to the conversation, is that with this new 12.2 million who just registered, particularly in the last 1 year, and that's something that I think comes to fore. In the last 1 year, people's eagerness, people's enthusiasm to vote in an election just got increased. And by the time you look at that 12.2 million, arguably, let's say half of the number turns up to vote, about 6 million. The question would then be, the election was between the PDP and APC, and the candidate of the PDP was on a ballot and he scored about a little below 12 million. And the current president, who is no longer on the ballot, had about 15 million votes. And now we are talking about a new likely 6 million voters who may turn out outside of those older ones. I'm not saying that all of those 30 million plus that voted in 2019, majority may not be alive, but majority will certainly be alive. And they are going to likely turn out, and more voters will show up. I am looking at about 45% of turnout in this election. Again, because of the dynamics of development challenges and issues of concern to many voters, and that is leading up to the registration and has led to even the kind of things we saw with the collection of PVC. If you monitor the election very closely, you would have seen that, not the election, sorry, the PVC collection, you would have seen that there was one particular case, either in Lagos or in Edo, where some folks said, today, we go collect them. We die here. In fact, it was like a signature. We die here. So there's almost like a national spread of the way people are rushing to pick up their PVC.
I get your point, Omori. Unfortunately, the line is not so clear, but we want to thank you very much for joining us and for providing those insights now on this voter register. We'll just wait and see how things pan out on election day. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, the truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.